Let me know if you've heard this before. Well, in keeping with that, this is, how many people here have heard this before? Raise your hand. Oh, you have? Oh, all right. Oh, okay. How many people have heard it more than once? The ring. All right. Okay. How many people have heard it, raise your hand, as a student sitting in these chairs? Thank you for really making me feel more. How many of you still wear your ring? You see the hands there? Keep your hands. Let's hear some applause if you're still wearing it. You can't say that about any other high school ring, believe me. But you don't know how lucky you are, because John Carroll almost did not have a high school ring. And that's the story I'm going to tell you tonight. The story they've all heard about a million times, about as many times as Mr. Scholl has. I tell you. Because he's been here every time I've had to tell it. 36 times. 36 times. I never knew when Mr. Miller, and he's still here by the way, asked me to tell the story, a little few words that I would be asked back, and it's an honor and a privilege. I love telling the story about when I was a student many, many years ago, here, as a lowly sophomore, sitting out there in those seats with Mr. Ward and Mr. Wilson. We were all in the same class. And we had seen the juniors who had just gotten their rings out there, and they were showing them off. And we were looking at each other and going, that's a high school ring? That's the weirdest looking high school ring I've ever seen in my life. What in the world? It doesn't look like a high school. What is this black and gold thing, and there's something on it? And there's this diamond symbol. And we knew what a high school ring was supposed to look like. A high school ring was supposed to be about this big around, with a big jewel on top, right? And the letters of your name of the school etched in the side with an American flag, the Statue of Liberty, and the year of the birth of who knows who, and everything else on the school. That's what a high school ring was supposed to look like. Not this weird, strange thing. So we decided that we all get together in the auditorium and with an assembly, and we said we would refuse to go to our next class until the administration changed the ring. It was the 60s. I don't have to be forgiven, right? So we're all sitting out here. We're all sitting out here wondering what's going to happen. Now let me tell you about the principal at the time. The very first principal of the school, his name was Father Raymond Warner. Now Father Warner, some of you might remember him, he got wind of, we really liked Father Warner. Father Warner was a great guy. We had great respect for Father Warner. Brilliant man. There was just one problem. Father Warner had a temper. He could yell at you if you did something wrong, if you got on the wrong side of him, if your collar was unbuttoned, if your shirt tail was up, he would let you have it, and he would, his face would get all red, a little vein would start popping here on the side, and well, you knew just how mad he was and how much trouble you were in by just how red his face would get. He came in right through that door and stood where that podium is right now. And he started in on us. And we looked at him, and we knew we were in trouble. His face wasn't red. It was purple. Because you see, we didn't know this. Father Warner designed the ring. Now here's the story that I heard many, many years afterwards. This is great about telling the story because I'm always getting new little stories. Father Warner himself told me that when the first junior class came through, they sort of forgot to order a ring. And they had to figure out what the ring was going to look like. And so Father Warner and the art teacher at the time, my art teacher, his name was Carroll, my very first art teacher. Some of you may know him out in the community. They got together, and Ray Warner told me this was so funny. He said, we got together up in Aberdeen in a restaurant called the Redwood Inn. It's not there anymore, and we designed the ring on the back of a cocktail napkin. That's great. And then what happened was they were trying to figure this out, and Frank always had a little felt tip pen in his pocket. And he pulled out the pen, and they got the napkin, and they started drawing right there on the table in the restaurant. And the first drawing was a ring that looked like, a usual high school ring. This big around, the big jewel on top, and the name of your school etched in letters on the side of the American flag. Well, Father Warner looked at that and said, that won't do. That looks like everybody else's ring. We can't do that. We are not like anybody else. Our school is the only independent, private, Catholic school in Harper County. We're different, and we need to have a ring that shows that uniqueness. So, Frank, let's do it again. And so they wadded up, like napkin after napkin, piling them up until finally, there it is. Father Warner said, that's it. And it's that simple band, and it had the letters of the school on there, and it had that symbol that you see on the crest. And here's another story. Later, much later, I heard that the symbol is not a vicious fighter, as you might think, but the symbol was two hands together like this. Two hands like this, grasping, like nurturing, like protecting us, like the hands of God, protecting whoever's in that. And that's where the idea of no. We just knew Father Warner was yelling at us and going, what do you mean you don't like this high school ring? What do you mean? Don't you know what a high school ring is for? Well, of course we knew what our high school ring was for. Everyone knows what the high school ring was for back in the 60s, back in those days. You paid an exorbitant amount of money to get this big, huge, hulking jewel on your hand for the express purpose of giving it to your girlfriend. Well, I see there's a lot of blank faces up here. So please, let me explain a very old and arcane dating ritual. Maybe it might be known to your parents or perhaps their grandparents. Something along the kin of spooning or bungling, perhaps. It was known as going steady. Well, what happens when you go steady is that the boy gives the ring to the girl. Therefore, no one dates anybody else in this relationship. That's another one. No one goes out anywhere except with that one exclusive person. And that was your steady boyfriend or girlfriend. Until said girl had enough of the boy and would give the ring back, and then the whole thing would start over again with somebody else. And then there was the ritual when the girl got the ring. It was this big hulking thing monster, They had to, how did they get it on their hand? And now, do you remember who heard the story? What is the first ritual that you had to do to get that thing to fit on your hand? They used to take masking tape or duct tape or anything, wrap it around the ring so it made like a thick band along the bottom of the ring so it wouldn't fall off your hand. So here's this poor girl with this huge hulking Super Bowl of a ring here on her hand, and she's walking down the hall. Wait a ton of, she's walking down the hall like this, trying not to let the thing drop off. Or there was the ritual. Am I telling the truth? And then there was the ritual of the chain, right? Chain. You take your ring that you got from your boyfriend, and you you put it on a chain. And the thing was like, you know, it must weigh 5 pounds. And if you weren't walking down the hall like this, you were walking down the hall like this. So, and guys, if you weren't lucky enough to have a girlfriend to go steady with, of course there were many, many uses for your ring if you kept it. I mean, you had to have a big hulking ring with a big jewel on the top so you could turn it around and go into the cafeteria and smack a person on the head. Those were a very important thing. Well, so we didn't know any of it. So he looked at that other one, was looking down at us after all that, and he was just shaking his head. He said, no, that's not what your ring means. And he told us about the two hands forming the shape of the chapel. And he told us about what the chapel really meant. He said, like, the chapel's the heart of the school. What do you mean? And first of all, we have to scratch our head. Where's the chapel? Oh, yeah. And he thought, you've got to that quiet place. That quiet place. He said, everybody here has a private self and a public self. There's a part of you that everyone knows, and everyone, and it's a happy, laughing side of you, joking around with your friends, and there's a part of you that only very few people know. The people who know you really well, the people who care for you. It's the same in school. There's a private place, a chapel, and a public place, a cafeteria or somewhere. And that chapel represents that very private place in your heart. That only the people, that your best friends know you in ways that you don't even know yourself. And that's what that represents. The heart of the school and the heart of you and your buddies and your friends and everybody who came before you. And everyone who comes after you that wears this ring has that memory on their hand. You never thought of it that way. You know, that memory that links you to every single graduate, that links you to those people, your parents, your aunts and uncles, who are wearing the ring tonight. That you're all connected because of this. And it's true that when you go out into the world and you're wearing a ring, it's such a distinctive piece of jewelry. And that's what Father Warner really wanted. He said, I want to design a ring that somebody won't throw in a drawer when they graduate. I want them to have a fine piece of jewelry that they're proud of wearing, and they can wear it as long as they want to wear it. And people will come up to you, and it's that unique. And they will say, is that a John Carroll ring? And she said, yes, it is a John Carroll ring. And you'll be talking about John Carroll and who's there, and their stories. I heard a story that, and this is a great one. I went on Facebook. Yeah, and I said, do you have a John Carroll ring story? And someone did write in and wrote to me and said, yes, back when I was in high school, many years ago, I was friends with someone, just a girl, there's a boy writing back to me. I was friends with this girl, we were just best buddies, and then we went our separate ways, had our separate lives. 25 years later, they met each other again. She lost her ring, but as a present for Valentine's Day, he bought her a new ring and gave it to her for a Valentine's present, and now they're going steady. That's a great John Carroll story. Would that happen in any other high school ring? No. You're connected. And that will happen to you, I guarantee it. Somewhere, somebody's going to say, is that a John Carroll ring? And they'll say, yes. Well, what's it like there? And you'll say, well, yes, Mr. Hughes, he's still there. And Mr. Scholl, yes, he's still there. And now Mr. Gaudreau, he's still telling the ring story. And that's a wonderful thing. To be able to tell a story, to share that connection, and to think about Father Warner, who gave us that ring to begin with, and told us what we were wearing on our hands, we gave them away, but we always made sure we got them back. And we always turned them in the right direction, all 112 times, and towards us, because we knew that we were turning them towards our heart. Because that's what we knew we were wearing on our hands. Okay? Our hearts. Our hearts. So, I want you to know, it's my last message. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And may God hold you